Um, we have some fantastic speakers this morning, and before I introduce you to them, I just wanted to say how delighted I am on behalf of the Crown Estate to be hosting today's event. Food waste is something that we as a business have been looking at for a couple of years now, and we believe that it's something that is very core to and an integral part to how we deliver against our net zero commitment. And I just wanted to take the opportunity just to, for those of you who aren't aware, highlight our net zero commitment. Sorry, I think I can see if you are able to meet that. Great. As many of you are aware, the Crown launched an announcement about to become a net zero business and to align to a 1.5 degree Paris proof world and to become climate positive thereafter. And I highlight this commitment particularly because we made it not knowing fully how we were going to achieve the commitment. But one of the things that we were really fully aware of was that we know we can't do this alone. And we know that collaboration, especially across our value chain, is absolutely essential in order for us to deliver against our commitment. And in particular, the role of our customers and how we support our customers is going to be integral to this. As I mentioned, our net zero carbon commitment isn't just about how much energy we use, i.e. our electricity and gas, but very much associated with the amount of food, including the food waste that is generated across our estate as well. So we need to be really thinking about more holistically about what it is that we can be doing to drive down food waste. I'd like to just introduce today's panel and speakers. To start off with, we have Jamie Crummy, who trained as a lawyer before pursuing his mission of fighting food waste. He is the co-founder of Too Good To Go, the world's largest marketplace for surplus food. Jamie was named one of Forbes 30 Under 30 in Europe in February 2019 and has been shortlisted for the Entrepreneur for Good Award at the NatWest Great British Entrepreneur Awards in 2019. And he'll be starting off by talking about some of the facts around food waste. Following Jamie, we'll have Eleanor, who is a guardian of Grub and has worked for sustainability charity WRAP, reducing food waste for the last decade. Eleanor will discuss WRAP's Guardians of Grub campaign, supporting the hospitality and food service sector to reopen right and protect profits and the planet. Our final speaker will be Isabel, who works for the Pret Foundation, where she manages the food donations program in the UK. She is passionate about reducing food waste and tackling food poverty, and she'll be providing the customer experience this morning, including how they've opened up and the sorts of tools that they have used. After the speakers, we'll have a panel Q&A discussions where we'll be joined by Louisa Dodd from the SRA. Louisa graduated from the University of Sussex in 2018 with a degree in geography. Her studies focus on the contributions and solutions food brings to global social and environmental issues, with her final thesis designing a Sussex-based sustainable diet. After graduating, Louisa worked on a sustainable sourcing project for the snack company Proper Corn before joining the SRA in 2019 as a project manager. She has since led on projects including the Food Waste Pledge for restaurants within the Crown Estate and the Bar World of Tomorrow, a sustainability bartender e-learn built in collaboration with Pernod Ricard. So without further ado, I'm going to pass on to Jamie to talk to us through the facts.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, and thank you very much for inviting me here today. Now, it's brilliant to be in such great company, and thank you everyone who's taken the time out this morning to learn a little bit more about food waste and how we can take food waste off the menu. Do you mind if we just move on to the next slide? And this is really what we're talking about here is the importance around fighting food waste. And essentially, this is just because great food deserves to be eaten. And what I hope we can do today is just introduce you a bit more to the context around why fighting food waste is so important, a bit more about what you guys can do, and also introduce the work that we do here at Too Good To Go. So if we just move on to the next slide. And essentially why we're here today and why it is so important to take a stance against food waste is because 1/3 of all food produced globally ends up being wasted. And that in itself is just something which is just truly ridiculous and incredibly shocking. But essentially what it means is that for every second that goes by, we're wasting 52 tons of food. So that's 100 tons, that's 150 tons, that's 200 tons in just 4 seconds. It really is quite shocking. So it needs us to be doing something about it. And if we just move on to the next slide, the reason why food waste is such a big problem is because it has really big and huge devastating financial, social, and environmental implications. So from a financial perspective, globally, we're wasting $1.2 trillion each year. That's how much food waste is costing the global economy. In the UK, we're spending around 20 billion. So it really is a monumental amount that we're spending on throwing food in the bin. To put that 20 billion into context, it's around 8 times our annual police budget. So we spend more on throwing food away than we do on public services, which again just really doesn't seem to add up to myself. In addition, it's a social thing, right? Globally, as I said, 1.3 billion tons of food is thrown away every single year. Yet there's over 870 million people that go to bed hungry every single night. So in this sense, food waste really is the true injustice here. But it's also an environmental problem. As we all know, we're in a climate crisis at the moment. And food waste, it's not food production, but food waste itself accounts for between 8 to 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions. That's more than the entire aviation industry. And what it means is that if food waste was a country, it would be the third largest greenhouse gas emitter after the US and China. So a landmass approximately the size of China is used every single year to produce food, which ends up being wasted. So again, it really is such a huge problem, and one which we all need to take up. Take notice of and take a bit of responsibility from. So if we move on to the next slide, why is food waste such a huge climate issue? Well, essentially, it's because every time we waste food, we waste the resources which go into creating it. So whether that's the land which is being converted from forestry or whatever it may be to then produce that food in the first place. It's a waste of the labor which has gone on to plant those crops, to distribute them. It's a waste of the fertilizers which are used. It's a waste of the water to grow it, to clean it. It's a waste of the fuel to distribute it, and the electricity which is used throughout that whole process. So all of these emissions which are generated through the production of food and through the distribution of food are just made in vain. And it is all of these things which are actually contributing to the climate emergency at the moment, whether that's land system change or fossil fuels. All of these things really add up and have a devastating impact on our climate. So in essence, as it is, when we waste food, we waste the resources which have gone into making it. But this can all seem, incredibly alien to ourselves. And, what is someone working in a food business or running a food business, owning a food business? What does this mean to you? Well, if we move on to the next slide, I really hope this phrase here will resonate with you. And it is that, in this climate emergency which we find ourselves in, which can often be incredibly overwhelming and can make us feel quite powerless, there is something we can do. And it is that reducing food waste is the most immediate, most impactful and simple action that we as individuals, but importantly, we as people who are working within a food business can take against climate change. And it really is as simple as that. So I want us all to see food waste as an opportunity to do something against all of the personal ambitions, but also as ambitions for the organizations we work for or own, that we can do to take against climate change. So if we move on to the next slide as well. But in essence, food waste is not just a really simple solution or simple action for us to take when tackling climate change. It's also something which just makes financial sense as well. So I gave some of those top figures earlier around the cost of food waste itself. but it also becomes a win-win solution. So particularly when we look at the impact of the pandemic and what's that has happened for food businesses, particularly the hospitality sector, more so than many others, has had. We now know it's equally as important to be able to protect that bottom line. And this is where food waste comes into its own, because not only is it something which makes environmental sense, it's also something which can protect that bottom line, as I said. So WRAP have done some amazing research. This is going back to 2016, in which they really uncovered the true cost of food waste on each sector. So I'm sure there's lots of people here working in restaurants or quick service restaurants, pubs, or even in staff catering facilities as well. But food waste itself in restaurants is costing 97p per plate of food, which is astounding. To think that for every plate of food that is thrown away, it's costing almost £1. And what we're including here is, this is looking into things like the cost of ingredients. This is looking into the cost of production, waste disposal costs, etc. And it does fluctuate across all of these different sectors within food businesses, but it is something which is incredibly avoidable and something which will give you an immediate return if you take an action against it. So if we move on to the next slide, please. So just introducing ourselves here at Too Good To Go. We work with many of the different sort of people on this call, but we are a social impact company, which unsurprisingly is all about fighting food waste. We're a registered B Corp, and what we're trying to do is grow a movement around food waste. So we're predominantly known for the work that we do in our marketplace, which is an app which connects individuals with businesses who have surplus food. But outside of that, it's doing work within households. So it's giving everyday people tips and tricks to be able to fight food waste in their own lives. It's working with businesses, with our partners, to be able to share a lot of the learnings that we see from our partners as well. It's doing things with schools to ensure that the young children of today don't continue to make the same mistakes that we've been doing in the future. And it's also working in public affairs. So what can we do to really shake up our food system and spark some policy change? So if we move on to the next slide, thank you. So a bit more about our marketplace. Well, as I said, it is an app and it's the largest marketplace for surplus food. We operate here in the UK as well as in 13 markets across Europe, and we've just launched in the US as well. In over 5 years, we've rescued 75 million magic bags or meals from going to waste. And that's from 38 million users and 100,000 different partners. And so this is, something we're incredibly proud of, but it really is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the impact that we can have. So just on to the next slide. In essence, how this all works is a user will log on to the Too Good To Go app. They'll see a host of participating food businesses, which range anything from your local cafe through to a high street coffee chain or restaurant, to supermarkets, hotels, and even food producers. The user will then select the profile they like, purchase through the app a magic bag, and then go to collect it from that food business during an allotted collection window. Next slide. Now, the magic bag itself is something which is our USP. It's about making this simple, accessible, and fun. For a food business like yourselves, it's very hard to predict what food is going to be left at the end of the day. So this is an opportunity to just put in a bag whatever is left over. But equally for our users, it's something that's fun. We talked about climate change often being something which is overwhelming and the doom and gloom that comes in hand with it. Well, it's really fun to be able to, grab a bag of food and it's all a total surprise. So just on to the next slide. And this essentially is what we refer to as a win-win. It's a win for the individuals who are able to discover new foods, discover new flavors at prices that don't cost the earth, because all of the food that is collected through Too Good To Go is a third of the retail price. But it's an opportunity as well for food businesses like yourselves to be able to cut down on that waste disposal cost, to reach new customers who can come in and maybe discover your brand for the first time, but also, buy other items while they're in there. So that upsell opportunity is really, really true. And you can win back lots of those sunk costs, but importantly, you're not having to throw that food away. I always say to people, the staggering thing about food waste, particularly within the food sector, is I always struggle to think of another industry in which the core product is thrown away on such magnitude on a daily basis. So as I say, this is an opportunity to stop having to throw your day's trade away. But ultimately, it's a win for the planet, because by reducing food waste, as I say, you're preventing any of those unnecessary greenhouse gas emissions being lost. So in essence, as I say, it's a win-win-win. What I just wanted to, if we could just pass on to the next slide, was just to, before I introduce our next speaker, Eleanor, was to talk a bit about what's coming up in the public affairs space around food waste. So there are a few consultations which are happening in the next couple of months, which affect all of us here, because it's all around food waste. So first off, there's a consultation on the consistency in household and business recycling, and then later on in the summer there will be announced a consultation on mandatory food waste reporting, and depending on your business size, that there will be something which impacts you as well. So it really is, as I say, important to take note of these consultations. If you want, you can submit your own proposal and give your thoughts and feedback to DEFRA. So I'll just pass on to Eleanor Morris, who is the Special Advisor for Hospitality and Food Service at WRAP, and is the brains behind the Guardians of Grub campaign. So I'll just pass you over to Eleanor.
Amy, sorry, just before we just pass on to Eleanor, I'm just kind of conscious of time. So if Eleanor and Isabel, if we can make sure that we finish before 9:15, that'd be great.
No problem.
Sorry to cut across.
No problem. Thanks very much, Jamie. And yeah, I'm here today, and thank you for the invitation to talk to you about reducing wasted food and the practical tools that WRAP has through our Guardians of Grub campaign. We developed the campaign to increase awareness of the link that wasting food feeds climate change and it costs money. There's loads of buzzwords around at the moment, and it can be really confusing about what is the best thing to do for the planet. We've got net zero, we've got environmental, social governance and so on, but actually proving what you're doing and providing evidence and supporting businesses that are hospitality and food service operators, even if you're not an operator yourself, we've got all the tools that you need to be able to get involved with the campaign. The campaign really focuses about bringing the whole team together to protect profits and our planet. And all the tools that we've got are tried and tested with the sector. So we know they work. What we really need support with is raising awareness that they exist and also encouraging hospitality businesses to take part and start using them. So a bit about how this all fits into the jigsaw. So Jamie mentioned the food mandatory food waste reporting consultation, which is due to happen at some point this year. The consistency consultation is live now. The deadline is the 4th of July. So I would encourage you to go onto DEFRA's website, as Jamie suggested, and have a look at that, because the implications are mandatory collection of food waste from all sites, business sites. So what the UK Food Waste Reduction Roadmap is, takes the global goal, the UN Sustainable Development Goal 12.3, and it turns that into something practical that can be interpreted on the ground. So it's about consistent measuring of your food waste. It's about setting a target to reduce the amount of food that is being thrown away, measuring that accurately, and then taking action to reduce it. And when DEFRA released their strategy in 2018, they part of talking about the mandatory reporting consultation, they were also suggesting that reporting should be in line with the roadmap, which again matches our Quartile Commitment 2025, which is a voluntary commitment that we run that also looks at water and GHG emissions. So the roadmap is free to sign up to and make a public commitment about food waste reduction. Everything that we we'll be talking about today, so the Guardians of Grub campaign, fits into Target Measure Act. We follow the same principles. It's about taking that ambition, that global ambition, and then making it happen at a site level. So next slide, please. So we've got some great new tools that you can encourage any sites or use yourself, depending on what your operation is. We've got often people don't believe that there is a financial benefit. Jamie's given some great stats, thank you. This is 4 clicks of a mouse and you can find out how much food waste is costing you, if you set a target, what that would save, but also the equivalent carbon saving and how many cars that's the same as taking off the road. Next slide, please. Once you're convinced that there's a case to take action, then we've got all the tools you need to get cracking with tracking it. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. You get 3 or 4 containers, you label them up. We've got everything you need, like the bin labels, the tracking sheet, and you split that those containers into where the food waste is arising. So that's whether it's preparation, spoilage, plate, or other. So if you're a hotel, for example, you might have a buffet, or if you're a hospital, overproduction. And then we've got free spreadsheets and tools that you can then pinpoint where that food waste is coming from and visualize that food waste so that the team can work together to identify the hotspots and then take action, really simple, straightforward actions to reduce that. Next step, please. Slide, please. So in order to really support the sector and to handhold through all of these tools, we've got a cost saving skills course, which is a 15-minute course to help everyone get started with Target Measure Act and find the right tools within Guardians of Grub to get started. We'd have some great feedback. We've got some of those quotes on the slide. Next slide. So once you've done the cost saving skills course, you might feel ready to do something that is a bit more in depth. So we've created something called the Guardians of Grub Becoming a Champion. And this is a behaviour change course. It is completely free for hospitality sites in the UK to take part. And you can also work with your hospitality sites. So for example, we could set you up, if you've got a number of sites, we can set you up in a group so that you can work together to start looking and measuring and understanding where those savings are coming from. There's 5 levels, you get certificates, there are knowledge checks, you get data. We've had some great feedback from some of the businesses, great quotes from Elior, Bluestone and Betty's. And we've got a webinar on the 17th of July to talk about the next cohort, which is going live from July to September. So please do find out about that. It gives you all the skills you need to really stay fit for the future. So what we'd like to do is encourage you to join the movement of Guardians of Grub. We've got a pledge on the website that you can join the Guardians of Grub activities. If you're an operator, we've got lots of tools and the courses that I mentioned so that you can get started. If you have an interest in hospitality but aren't an operator yourself, we've got a whole campaign pack that you can share with the businesses that you work with that includes collateral, social media, copy, all the images and logos that you require. But I do urge you to protect your profits and our planet, and why not start today? Thanks very much.
Thanks, Eleanor. And I just wanted to kind of draw your attention as well to the Sustainable Restaurants Association. As I mentioned, Louise is on the call and will join the panel Q&A. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the SRA, they're a not-for-profit best known for running its hospitality membership program, Food Made Better, with over 10,000 UK food services sites. They also have a framework which defines sustainability for food service, and it includes a challenge within sourcing, society and the environment, with food waste one of the 10 key areas. We as a Crown Estate have worked with them, and they work with across their members and other wider industry in a number of ways. And on the food waste pledge that they worked with us specifically, they helped us develop a food waste reduction programme for our central London restaurants and deliver a bespoke food waste consultancy for our customers and quiz restaurants on their food waste operations. Just kind of conscious of time, but their website, it has fantastic resources, so please do check them out, and we'll be able to circulate those links after the session today. And with that, I will pass to Isabel.
Hi everyone, so I'm Isabel, I'm the Food Donations Programme Manager at the Pret Foundation. So next slide. The Pret Foundation is the charity linked to Pret with the main mission to help alleviate poverty, in particular homeless and hunger, in all of the markets in which Pret operates. And we have 3 strategic pillars: our food donations programmes, a grant giving programme, and an employment and development programme. Obviously today I'm going to focus on the food donations programme. So when our founders first opened their first ever Pret shop, they began donating food to the homeless at the end of each day. So what began as a relatively informal arrangement, just donating a few sandwiches, has grown with Pret to become a large food redistribution programme, donating millions of products every year. Our sustainability and operations team seek to reduce food waste in our shops and in our kitchens wherever possible. But because of Pret's business model and USP of made today, gone today, there'll always be end of day food surplus. And that's why the food donations programme is really part of Pret's DNA. Next slide, please. So in 2020, we donated 5.6 million items to over 230 charity partners across the UK. In London, we've got our own fleet of vans who collect surplus food overnight from our shops and deliver to homeless hostels, shelters and other charities around the city. In our regions, we link up with local charities who collect food at closing time from our shops. Even with a network of over 230 charity partners, there are still shops where we can't find a charity partner or charity partner recently drops out. And so when this happens, we work with food redistribution apps like Olio, and this allows us to ensure that over 95% of our collections are allocated to charity partners or community redistribution, which helps keep our shop food waste really low. In 2020, because of lockdown, as you all know, we had a lot more waste at warehouse level, and we were able to donate over £1 million of product from our depot. And in order to do this, we needed to work with larger redistribution charities that we don't normally work with on a day-to-day basis, such as the Felix Project, Fair Share and City Harvest. I'm sure you can tell by this setup that we rely on a variety of different partners to ensure that we can redistribute as much of our food as possible from our shops and our warehouses. There's no one-size-fits-all solution to food surplus redistribution, which is why we've got to work with so many different partners to solve each a different problem. Next slide, please. And so when we recently signed up to the WRAP food waste reduction roadmap, as part of our data submission, we highlighted a few key areas for improvement, and one of these was our hot food waste. Because of food safety requirements and our production patterns in shops, our current methods of redistribution, so via Olio or via charities, wasn't really suitable for our hot food range, which means we were wasting a lot of hot food without being able to redistribute it. And this is where our trial with Too Good To Go came in to help solve this problem. So we're trialling Too Good To Go to sell our hot food at breakfast, lunch and dinner ranges at a reduced price in their magic bags. We started the trial in just 10 shops in December, and recently, a couple of weeks ago, extended that trial to a 30 shop trial. And so far we've we've sold 4,000 bags, which is brilliant progress. And we've had a really high save ratio of 94%. And great customer and consumer feedback. So we've got a 4.4 star rating, and Too Good To Go helped us to do a customer survey as well, which was really interesting. And one thing that we did find was that 23% of Too Good To Go Pret customers were actually new to Pret and hadn't shopped at Pret before. And even the customers that had shopped at Pret, 70% of those customers were trying new products in their magic bag. And so this is something that business were really pleased about, because it shows that Too Good To Go can also help drive new customers into the shops and maybe convert Too Good To Go customers into full-time Pret paying customers. In terms of what we've learnt, throughout the trial, we've focused on outliers. So this has enabled us to address our initial problems we had with a high refund rate. And we've reduced our refund rate, which is now below 2%, which is brilliant. We've also found it's incredibly important to give our shops flexibility. And we've done this by increasing the range of products that shops can add to the magic bags. So they can now add a limited number of chilled products as well as the hot food, which will help them to level out supply without impacting our charity donations too much. And on top of that, we've given them more flexibility around their collection windows. So some shops choose to have more than 3 collection windows. Some shops choose to have the last collection window after closing time or just before closing time. And it's really up to what that shop or operations manager thinks works best in that particular shop. And that's helped with our sales. And also we found that shop engagement is really critical for Too Good To Go to be successful. And so for our 30 shop trial, we've introduced a Too Good To Go button on our tills. And so this will register all of the Too Good To Go sales at shop level and ensure that shop reports are reflecting the reduced waste. And this has really helped to drive engagement with our team members and managers as they can really see the impact that this is having. So overall, what are the results? We've had really good performance stats, 95% of consumers finding the process easy, and we've definitely seen an improvement from phase 1 to phase 2 with these small tweaks introduced. We've seen a 270% higher rate of bags saved, and we plan with the phase 2 of the trial to continue the learning loop to make sure we're using Too Good To Go effectively and maximising the amount of waste that we can reduce. This will not only help us from a sustainability perspective, but it will bring some revenue back into the business by selling food that would otherwise be wasted. And on top of this, it's definitely going to help the Pret Foundation because 50% of the revenue that we're raising through Too Good To Go will be donated back to the Pret Foundation to help fund our strategic pillars and our programs that we're running, which diversifies our income and means we can continue to help address poverty and hunger in other ways. So we're really excited to continue partnering with Too Good To Go. Thanks.
Thanks, Isabel, and thanks so much for sharing your experience. It's great to see how you've brought it to life and some of the shared learnings that you've been able to talk through today. I just want to use the rest of the time to open it up for a discussion. And given sort of the size of the group, would very much welcome you all to raise your hand, or if you're not feeling brave, feel free to write it in a text box as well. Great, Adrian, if I can start off with you.
Unmute myself. Hi, folks. Yeah, it is very sunny here, Jane. It's a beautiful morning. Foss Park, there's a ground floor opportunity. I'm being extremely selfish here. We have a ground floor opportunity at Foss Park with a lot of our F&B, our new F&B operators not open as yet, but very, very soon to be open over the next few months, and a significant number, including quite a range of local independent F&B operators that are coming in for the first time and actually need a little bit of a helping hand, and a lot of established players as well. And there seems to be an opportunity, and this is just generally out, I'm just asking for engagement. So I'm kind of offering Foss, if you like, as a perfect vehicle, I think, to get a collaborative project going from ground up before they even start trading. So I would just welcome, Jane, just any engagement with any of the groups.
Sure. Who'd like to take this? I might maybe start off either Jamie or Louisa.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Adrian. So yeah, I'm Louisa from the Sustainable Restaurant Association. Jane, thank you so much for running through that slide quickly earlier. We work with a lot of businesses kind of before they actually open. It's a lot harder to implement sustainability once you've opened up your doors and got customers in, money in the till, and you've kind of got into that flow of your operations. Yeah, we've kind of learned the hard way that it works best to have those conversations and build your operations around sustainability rather than always being that kind of add-on. I do think establishing a partnership with someone like Too Good To Go is what we suggest all hospitality businesses do. It's always great to have a redistribution organisation kind of on call should you have food waste going, and to have that kind of opt-in button always ready to click. But our focus will always be on prevention, which is where the tools that Guardian of Grub provide are absolutely amazing. And I think my kind of top tip there would be, whatever, I guess, in your role, whether you're able to support on the actual menus and things that are being developed before those operators actually open, because the key thing is making sure that those opening menus are built with food waste in mind. So yeah, it'd be great to connect after this.
I think it'll be limited. The extent to which we can influence the menus, I think, will be limited. But I think we have a wonderful opportunity to engender a culture, if you like, as part of the onboarding process, right from day one, which may well then have a positive impact. You're quite right. Going back after the open and trying to implement a program is almost impossible. Being an ex-retailer, I know how reluctant retailers are to get on board, especially when they're particularly busy. But if we can establish the practices and the sense of collaboration, and a little bit of a sense of unity, we do intend to take the F&B community, because it's going to be quite large at Foss Park, as a separate unit and work with them separately to the rest of the retailers. I think that's correct. And obviously food waste is a vital part of that.
Yeah, and my advice to that, the most important thing to nail down, especially in that onboarding process, is the very unsexy part of food waste, which is contamination. It's an absolutely horrendous issue across the whole industry. And whilst our focus is always on, prevention, and, redistributing your food if you have it, at the end of the day, if businesses are lobbing all of their food waste that they do have, because it's a reality that you peel potatoes and you've got to do something with it. If not, you're making, potato peel crisp, but that's not going to happen for everyone. And so it's really important that that food is actually going in a proper food waste bin. And one of the big issues that me and Jane also witnessed when we were supporting some of the restaurants in the portfolio in London, contamination is a really huge issue. And it's amazing that the Crown Estate actually have really close relationships with a lot of the waste contractors in the London portfolio. And so the most important thing you can do is actually making bright, colourful, in multiple languages, bins, food waste bins, that people actually understand where they are, what to do with them, lovely symbols on the front, and making sure you have an unlimited supply of bin bags. Because at the end of the day, as I say, if you're lobbing it all in general waste, then you've got atrocious amounts of methane that are going to landfill. So sort out the bins. That would be my top tip.
Final thing, Jane, this is one to take back to the asset managers. Green leases. We've been talking about green leases for a long time, and retailers are very resistant to green leases. But until we have something, I believe, in terms of some sort of legal framework, a lot of our F&B operators are still going to continue just to chuck waste out into general use bins.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that's been recognised across the industry that we need to kind of address, because it's not something that we alone face as an issue. Jamie, I don't know if you wanted to kind of jump in. If not, I'll pass on to Michelle.
Just a quick thing, Adrian, there would just be to echo what Louisa said, but I think you're right in terms of that change in mindset. And what we'd love to do is to speak to any retailers or operators before opening and just highlight the importance of addressing food waste.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks, and thanks for the presentation. It was really interesting. I suppose my question is, I'm bought in, I think it's great. Are there any tools to almost get the engagement and the buy-in to start that conversation with the brands that we have on site? Because I think that's the big gap.
Yeah, great question. Maybe Eleanor or Isabel, is that something that you'd be able to respond to? Maybe Eleanor first.
Yeah, lovely to meet you, and great question. So for Guardians of Grub, we have got these fantastic tools that include this campaign pack. It describes copy that you can engage sites with, as well as all the materials that they need to get going. So yeah, if you go on the guardiansofgrub.com website or email me, then I can make sure you've got all the tools that you need. And yeah, we'd love to work with you and encourage the teams to either use the cost saving skills course or register for that learning that starts in July, so that they can really get ready for building it into their operations as well. We've got a business case presentation as well, which describes the background information, so a few more stats similar to Jamie's, but really helps you make the case to other sites to get involved.
I think the big thing for me is from my personal perspective, I think we have a really short window. I think we need to present something that's quite short, quite condensed, that's going to really capture their attention, rather than presenting something that's quite long and substantial in the first instance. Because I think with a lot of the retailers, you know, they don't have the time, and a lot of them don't make the decision themselves. It would go to their head office, but it's really important that we get their buy-in. So for me, something that's like a one-page or a little kind of leaflet that I can go and have that conversation with them on a kind of local level. Once I can get the hook in with them, then maybe go into a bigger kind of presentation with those people more senior within their business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we've got plenty of materials, so I can make sure you get access to the right ones. We've got loads of case studies as well on the website. So again, that brings it to life a lot more when you're giving the actual savings that people have seen and the ideas that they've come up with to resolve some of those challenges that they've found.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Eleanor. We've got a couple more questions crop up, and if everyone's happy, happy to kind of carry on for an extra few minutes. But maybe if I go to Julie next.
Hi everyone, thanks for a really interesting seminar this morning. Some really interesting guidance for everyone, I think. I just wanted to pick up on something that Adrian had been saying on the return to new business as normal. And what we've done on the Central London portfolio is taken a look at how we can refresh and retrain people within the hospitality industry. So we're putting together a hospitality pack with our service providers. We'll certainly be ensuring that we're adding to that the apps for Too Good To Go and Olio, excuse me, and the information from DEFRA. But if anybody's interested, then we would certainly be prepared to share the framework of that information so that you can perhaps liaise with your own waste providers in order to do something similar. We're very aware of the fact that people are very short on time within hospitality. So we're putting together some short videos that people can create their own apps and add that to their training sessions, to their toolbox talks, whatever they want to call it within the industry. And hopefully that's another way of quickly grabbing people's attention at the right time before they start making those bad errors again and contaminating waste, which Louisa is all too well aware of across some of our businesses on the estate. So just to put that out there, that we're prepared to share if anyone would like us to. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. And yeah, if anybody is interested, do please get in touch. We're happy to facilitate from our end to share that. Donna, can I go to you next?
Yeah, hi, good morning. Yeah, instant buy-in from me. There's a motto in our house, which is nothing goes to waste in this house. So however I conjure it up, it was steak and kidney pie with salad the other day because I've got so much lettuce, it's climbing out of the polytunnel. So not a pleasant meal, but it all went down the same way. For myself, Maxine, who's on the call, our retail liaison manager here, she's worked tirelessly to obviously encourage our food and beverage teams to be on this call, but it is actually the nature of the beast. They're in their businesses at the moment and they are prepping, they're getting ready for the day. They probably finished very late last night at midnight or something. So we can tell by the numbers that we haven't got the audience here on this call. I can see that it is being recorded. So first question is when will this be available and how is it going to be shared? Because I do feel that this is something that we could do with sort of turning around moulding and actually putting it to the regional level. So I will talk with Maxine afterwards. This is as new to her as it is to all of you, but how is it that we can actually go in at the regional level with a short, concise message and with, let's say, 2 really quick wins? Because I feel that way we could get a quicker buy-in, because as I say, the people on the ground here, they're always going to be on the ground, and here at Rushton Lakes we are extremely busy, and they really do not have a window of time to take advantage of this. So yeah, if I know when this is available, you know, for sharing. And then obviously for us to then look to take it in at the regional level with some quick wins as a buy-in.
Sure, thanks, Anna. I'm going to ask Siobhan from our side just to respond on the availability of the recording, and then maybe Louisa, and that might be quite a good question actually for you to come in on, just given some of the challenges that we've had in terms of how we've worked around it in terms of engaging with the restaurants around timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Siobhan, go.
Oh, thank you, Donna. And we did have quite a few customers say, unfortunately, we can't make it because we have commitments, but it is something that we're interested in. So we are going to focus a lot on our post-event follow-up. We'll do targeted follow-ups to all the F&B customers, but we'll also place the recording and the meeting collateral from Too Good To Go, the SRA, and WRAP on our website as a past event, and we can direct people there so they can access the information when they have the time to do so. Because we realise industry is so busy at the moment, but it's something they want to do. They just can't spare the time at the moment, perhaps.
And I would say, Donna, the SRA has been going for 10 years and we've still not managed to tackle the fact that hospitality doesn't reply to emails. It's really, really hard to engage with hospitality. They never have a minute spared, but you know, they're passionate. And so it's about, yeah, how do you meet them where they're at? And so where possible, you can get on the ground. If you're saying that, you know, it's a lot quicker to catch a chef or to catch, you know, your general manager if they're, you know, make themselves a quick coffee and you're walking past and you're able to have that conversation. So whether that's about, you know, if you guys are interested in working more with Too Good To Go, trying to get someone from Jamie's team to be there on the ground, do a quick 15-minute at, you know, first thing in the morning, or often we find between sort of 3 and 4, but it depends on the types of businesses that are at your site. But trying to get people where they're at in person. Hospitality don't do Zoom, so that would be my advice to you. But also, you know, back to Adrian's point, if you have that kind of trying to engage with hospitality before they open is really, really key. Is there something you can be doing in that kind of tender process, or having those kind of conversations before kind of operations start going, and having some kind of documentation to always refer back to is also quite powerful. So yeah, don't know if that's wholly useful. I completely empathise with you. It's really hard, but where possible that you can kind of be on the ground and have those real face-to-face conversations is always the best way to engage with hospitality.
Thanks, Louisa. And I just kind of wondered, before I kind of move on to Gareth to ask his question, just Isabel, from your perspective as well, because you mentioned in your presentation the importance of working at store level. Are there things that you've kind of done within Pret to engage as well?
Yeah, so I think from store level, we've had really positive feedback. So once the decision was made to take part in Too Good To Go, we've had really high shop engagement. And I credit Too Good To Go with that. Our account manager, Nigel's been brilliant. He's followed up with all of the shops, given them calls. We've provided them with all the resources that they need to continue with the trial. And it's been easy, I would say, for shops. There was one Zoom call required for a training session, and other than that, everything has been pretty simple. So I would suggest just engaging with Too Good To Go if that's a solution that you're interested in, and then I would say they do most of the heavy lifting for you in terms of providing you with the resources, the training tools, and engaging with the shops. So it's pretty easy from an operations perspective.
I think as well, just to jump in there and echo what Isabel's saying, for us, we know the importance of having like a bottom-up approach when it comes to staff engagement. It's all great if a head office or an owner or manager is loving it, but we need to engage the people who are working in the site floor on a daily basis, and make it clear to them the importance as to what they're doing when it comes to fighting food waste.
Thanks both. And Gareth, would you like to ask your question?
Really, it's just a point just to follow up from other sort of questions that have been raised. I think I should introduce myself. For those who don't know me, my name's Gareth Durbridge. I'm the Customer Experience Manager for Savills working across the regional portfolio. So I liaise directly between our head office, between the Crown Estate, and also with each of the sites as well, in regards to how we can sort of communicate and engage with the customers. I think some really valid points have been raised there. I think one of the things that I'd like to look to do is discuss with Eleanor, who is our sustainability consultant at Savills, and she works on the regional portfolio, and pick that up with Eleanor and Maria, and look at a way that we can create an engagement approach across the whole portfolio, and just as Adrian raised there about the onboarding process, to sort of build that in. So we now have an onboarding structure that we've just recently created, and I think this would be excellent to feed that into that structure. And I can see already many of the centre managers, Donna, Michelle, Adrian, have all raised that this is something that would be really useful to engage with the customers at a site level, but also listening to what was raised before, engaging as well at the head office level, particularly for customers who are a national organisation, and making sure that, as well as we have the buy-in from site level store managers, restaurant managers, that we also have the same buy-in from head office. So I think there's a really great opportunity here to sort of pull all of these resources together and have a regional approach that we can do. So it's something that I'd definitely like to be able to pick up with you guys offline, and we can work out some kind of strategy around how we can do that.
Thanks, Gareth. That's great. And I know it's we haven't specifically looked from our side on the regional portfolio, and definitely agree there's scope and an opportunity to look at that. I just wanted to offer any sort of final questions from anybody else in the session today. Well, I think given that we've slightly overrun, and thank you so much for everybody for staying on. I've received one message up through, but what I just wanted to say is thank you so much to all of our speakers and Louise for joining on the panel as well. We'll be able to share the slides after today, and also we'll be able to confirm the recordings, etc., following the session today. If you do have any follow-up sessions, please do come back to us, and we'll be able to navigate and filter through to the right individuals. But other than that, thanks very much for joining, and hope you all have a wonderful day, and speak to you all soon. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks.